Requirements Traceability Matrix. The fourth and last point to consider when managing the requirements or change requests is implementing the Requirements Traceability Matrix. Requirement Traceability Matrix is one of the tools you can find only in very mature companies. Most companies I've worked with implement the Requirement Traceability Matrix for regulatory reasons, mainly to prove that the company is mature or willing to be mature. So what is the Requirements Traceability Matrix anyways? The Requirements Traceability Matrix is a representation that links each individual requirement to its representation in the design, to its representation in the code, to its representation in the test cases used to test that requirement. Think of it as a massive spreadsheet with a list of all the requirements in one column. In the second column, we put the derived requirements that we could get from the main requirements. Now, we should link those derived requirements to the original requirements. Next, as we model those requirements in the design, every single requirement might need to be modeled in the design in several places, resulting in one or more design elements per single requirement. Again, we should link the design elements to the derived requirements and the original requirements. The same thing can be said about the code, test cases, and so on. So, 10 requirements can be mapped to 20 design elements, which can be mapped to tens of code functions, which in return can be mapped to hundreds of test cases. I've seen some versions of the Requirements Traceability Matrix that could start from the customer's project objectives or goals all the way to the development of the solution to the customer. All these mainly to ensure that we have implemented everything, didn't forget anything, and make sure everything is well tested. Now I want you to imagine an important benefit of using the Requirements Traceability Matrix. When you have a change request in one of the requirements, the CBB can use this document to trace the requirement we are about to change. The requirements traceability is bidirectional. We can track the requirement forward to evaluate the changes required to be made to the design, the code, and the test cases, and then evaluate how much testing will be needed to test that change. Also, we can use that document to move backward. We can see what other requirements will be affected by our change and ensure that everything is included when we implement and test the change. This is called evaluating the impact analysis of the change. Of course, the requirements traceability matrix can be more complicated by adding requirement attributes to every requirement, like a unique ID, priority, source of the requirements, status, and so on. Requirements traceability matrix is often hard to create and hard to keep up to date, especially for larger projects. Usually, there are tools that can automatically create this document by reading the requirements document, design document, source code, and test cases, and assemble the requirements traceability matrix for you. But unfortunately, such tools are very expensive. So, most of the small companies I've worked with used to create this document manually, and testers are the poor people who are usually responsible for maintaining this document. Another way of implementing the traceability matrix is hyperlinking. Hyperlinking can be found in most word processors. A hyperlink is a word or phrase or image that you can click on to jump to a new document or a new section within the same document. Hyperlinks are found in nearly all web pages, allowing users to navigate their way from page to page. Hypertext is a text with a hyperlink. Hyperlinking is not the same as the traceability matrix, but hyperlinking can establish some of your project's traceability. In one of our projects, I remember we used to hyperlink everything we had, even status report. Of course, you can imagine the efforts needed to create the requirements document and other documents with hyperlinks, but again, there are tools that can do this job for you automatically. These summarize our 4 points that need to be in place to control the requirement changes of the scope of your software project.